We'll keep you on retainer as our gossip correspondent. If there's a particular spicy thing, we'll call you on and be like, all right, Tristan Thompson's on another team. Come through. Sup, nerds? It's basketball. Welcome to Horse, a basketball podcast about everything except for the wins and losses. My name is Mike Schubert, and I'm joined by my trusted co-host, the Nika Mule, not being able to play in the Seattle Storm home opener game, to the reason being that her work visa hadn't been approved yet. It's Adam Amawala. Adam, how's it going?
What the hell?
Yeah, so
tied up in bureaucracy.
She is a Croatian basketball player who went to UConn, and she was on a student visa. And just the way the WNBA works, the draft is so shortly after the season ends. Like the March Madness wraps up by the end of March, and then mid-May they're playing. Her work visa hadn't been approved in time, so she couldn't play in the opener, even though the Storm tweeted out a hype video of her with her pregame drip walking through on an hour before the game started with the caption, "Ready for her debut." And I guess they thought it was going to be okay. And then I don't know who makes the call. Like the United States government is like, she can't get on the court.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
It's so interesting because as we've talked about before, just being drafted in the WNBA draft doesn't necessarily ensure you a roster spot. So theoretically, like there's a ton riding on that for her, because if they don't pick up her contract,
right, she
might have to leave the country, because like it is still a job. You do still have to be employed to stay here if you're on a work visa. That's it. You kind of forget sometimes that like it is still ultimately a job that these people have.
That is one of my favorite things to think about with the NBA and the WNBA, and I think that is a perfect hype for what the back portion of this episode is, which
for sure
we'll be discussing this sort of stuff with Madeline Hill, who kind of looks at the drama of sports as well. And a lot of what we talked about in our interview was about just like remembering that this is a workplace. It's so strange to take that step back and think about it, just like from job perspective-y type things.
Right.
Like, do players have emails? Like, they have to, right?
Absolutely.
Like, does she have like nika.mule@seattlestorm.com and she has to like check the things of, got to get on the bus at 7:15, got to go to my visa application.
Right.
But like visa stuff is wild. I had to get a visa when I did my work abroad thing. And it's like, it's intense because you have to like make sure it gets approved. And then you also have to like book flights and get an apartment and stuff. But also you want to like wait until the visa gets approved, because you don't want to like put a down payment on an apartment in France. And then the French government's like, just kidding, you can't work here. Like, wild stuff. Anyway, basketball. That's what this podcast is about. And we're here to discuss it. To get ready to do so, we're going to go to the Teal Memorial locker room, which does not require a very stringent visa process. It's like one of those countries with the tourist visa where they're like, what are you doing? And you say anything, and then they stamp it, and then they let you in.
Approved.
Done. Great. Amazing. You know who else is great and amazing?
Our patrons.
Our patrons. We are appreciative to all of our patrons. We are especially appreciative to our producer-level patrons, Polly Burge, Salvatore Testa, Shimon Ellsbury, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, How About Them World Champion Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed. Steph Curry needs some help this offseason.
He really does. Bang.
Hi, Trish, Nicole Shepard, Chase Underulo, Haley Zink, Naked Rachel, Sidney Crosby as Vampire, Chelsea's Cousin, Ginger Spurs Boy, Balls to the Walls, and RT Party. And you know what also could be good if we ever needed to send in a visa application, which I'm sure costs a pretty penny?
Probably using Tab for a Cause, so that as we're trying to help ourselves, we're also helping the world.
Exactly. So Tab for a Cause is a wonderful little browser extension that you can put on your browser, and every time you open a tab, you'll get a picture of a nice background or an architectural wonder or something. You might see some tiny ads in the corner, but those raise money for charity, and you can pick what charities to support. Let's do our tab check, Adam. Right now, I have 6 tabs open, which is kind of high for me because I do have 2 tabs open that are like you need to remember to do this. So I'm at 6 right now.
Well, we have covered LeBron's career because you have 6 and I have 23.
There we go. Look at us. Well, if you want to channel your tab energy and make it good, go to tabforacause.org/horse, get it installed, and then boom, you will raise money for charity just by using the internet. What's not to love? Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get ad-free episodes, we're going to take a little break here for words from sponsors who help us offset the costs of making this show. And once we come back from that, and some of those ads will be read by us, some of them won't be. Those are locally inserted. And once those are complete, we'll continue this episode of Horse. And we are back. Adam, what's going on?
All right. As you are listening to this episode release, I'm going to be in Texas very, very soon.
Ha!
Indeed. On Thursday, May 30th, I'm going to be headlining The Creek and the Cave in Austin, Texas. The following night, Friday the 31st, I'm going to be at Comedy Space, which is going to be hosted at Secret Group in Houston. On Sunday, June 2nd, I will be at Blind Tiger Comedy Club in San Antonio. And then once I'm back on the East Coast, on that following Saturday, June 8th, I will be at the Fairfield Comedy Circle in Fairfield, Connecticut. And then in August, on Sunday the 11th, I will be headlining Vermont Comedy Club in Burlington, Vermont. As always, I'm going to be adding more dates and cities soon, but that's what I got for now. What about you?
Well, first I got to say, extra incentive for going to the Houston show. As you discussed with my parents at a recent softball game, my parents might be in attendance. So not only can you see some Adam comedy, but you might be getting a Barb and Joel sighting. What's not to love there?
It's true. It's true.
So
come for the Barb and Joel, stay for the comedy.
Yeah. Or the reverse, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I don't think I've had anything new. It's just those dates where I'll be in Seattle and Portland and Vancouver and Atlanta and Tennessee and Berkeley, California. But
Sick.
I'm also currently in the works getting a New Orleans date secured. It should be October 24th. I'm talking between two venues to try to figure out which one makes the most sense, but we will be trying to make a New Orleans show happen, which will be exciting. That was going to be the first stop on my tour in April of 2020. Ha 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 ha.
Listen, man, one of the great cities in the country. I love New Orleans.
It's a good town. So tickets for all that stuff is up, and any new things added will be up at my website, Shubs, schub.es/tour. So with that complete, let's continue on the episode. Do we have an NB Q&A?
Yeah, we do. Let's get that up. Our NB Q&A today comes from Lillian Painter, and the question says, "Hey guys, I don't watch any basketball. My family and I only watch the weird sports, as in European road biking races and cross-country skiing. But I love this podcast. I've been listening for a little while, and I might not understand everything, and sometimes have to Google who is who, and it's a good time. But my question is, if you had to do a podcast about a different sport, what sport would it be? And more importantly, what would you name it? Thanks, Lillian Painter, a cross-country skiing Canadian." So I feel like this is a slightly easier question for me because I used to have, until fairly recently, a different podcast about a different sport, predictably baseball. The podcast was called Away Games Podcast, and it was a Chicago Cubs podcast, and the whole idea behind the name was that it was myself and another comedian who's originally from Chicago but lives in New York, so most of the games that we attend to watch our favorite team were away games. So I guess I kind of already have like a past tense answer. Would you? I actually don't know what the answer would be for you. Would you go more like tennis? Would you go? Because I feel like, what other sport do you follow? What's your second most followed sport, would you say?
My second most followed one is baseball, but with baseball specifically, I know like everything possible about the New York Yankees, and I couldn't tell you anything about people on other teams. Like it is the opposite of basketball, where basketball, I know like all the stuff and all the Knicks stuff. But baseball, it's like the rosters are so big, like it's 40 people just on the professional team. Then you have people in the minor leagues that you have to be aware of. So I really know a lot about the Yankees. I have thought if I ever did make a Yankees podcast, I would call it the Value Chicken Bucket Podcast, because that's the best item to buy at Yankee Stadium. Adam and I have split two, I think. So they're very, very good. Great bang for your buck in terms of total food for dollars spent. And that would be the thing that I've like actively thought of. I don't follow tennis enough to like know it. Like I would do a tennis podcast, and even you and I could do one, but it would have to be about like playing tennis as opposed to following professional tennis.
Yeah, I don't really follow anything other than the major tournaments, and even then I'm like
Yeah, I'm like the religious people who only go to church on Easter and Christmas. When it comes to tennis, like I'm watching the majors and nothing else. And like,
I'm a Wimbledon U.S. Open tennis fan.
That's exactly what I am. Like, I'm not getting up at weird hours to watch to watch them. I'll watch highlights after and stuff, but like, nah, I'm big into the U.S. Open. I'll watch Wimbledon because usually the time difference is fine. But yeah, I think I could make a playing tennis one. And I think if I did it with you, we would just have to call it Switch with an exclamation point.
That's fun.
Since that was our favorite tennis move that we used to utilize a lot of in our New Jersey tennis days.
I like it. All right. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. That's a fun one. I'm glad she gave the shout to cross-country skiing because that's something that I didn't like fully grasp, but I was once vacationing in Norway, and there was a thing where you can like go tobogganing down a thing that used to be the bobsled track. Like now it's just like a park, and you can get like a little tiny sled and rent it and then go sledding down it. And I was doing that with my friend, and the public transit in Oslo just goes to the ski lift. Like there's not like there's no like ski lift. You just take the train, and then when you get down to the bottom of the hill, you take the train up 2 stops. Like it's wild. So cool. As we got closer, there was like no one on the train, and then a whole mess of people got on the train and then got off because like somewhere else on the mountain was like we could hear super duper loud music. We were like, is there a music festival going on? And they were like, no, it's the World Cup of cross-country skiing, and Norway wins every year, so we party hard as hell.
Sick.
It was awesome. So then we went tobogganing with people who were also partying, and they were like drinking Jaeger straight from a bottle while tobogganing, and it was great. And then we partied with them afterwards. Like they had a house party. They invited us to a house party after. It was the most like, this is not a real life night of my life.
Yeah. I feel like you're like Anthony Bourdain. You're like, what am I doing? I'm just like hanging out with random people.
It ended with me having a dance battle in a bar where there was a guy playing a trumpet on top of the bar with like random Norwegian and Swedish people that I had met earlier that evening. It was an absurd, unrealistic evening.
Amazing. Well, great question. Thank you again, Lillian. And we look forward to listening to your podcast, Skiing is Believing.
All right, thanks everyone for listening. We got to wrap it here. We can't top that. That's amazing. That's so good. Okay, let's get into full court press. Get it like the news. The NBA playoffs are raging on. The WNBA season just started. We're recording this on May 16th. It is the best time of the year when you've got both leagues going on, and there's lots of fun stuff abound. I think we can real quick do a little bit of NBA playoffs recap and then just kind of touch on initial WNBA stuff. But playoffs right now, we've got the Celtics have defeated the Cavs. No one was surprised. They won 4-1. The Knicks are currently up on the Pacers 3-2, which has been a very interesting series of the Knicks won the first 2 games and it was like, oh yeah, baby. And then the Pacers won the next 2 games and it was like, oh no, baby. And then the Knicks won this game and it's like, oh yeah, baby. Like very back and forth.
It feels like it might be kind of like the Celtics Magic first round series where the home team just wins every game. Which I'm sure you would be fine with, even if it takes 7 games. Yeah,
I'll take it. Look, I will take it. And then you had another really interesting one where the Nuggets lost the first 2 games at home to
Stephen A. Smith declared they would be swept. How'd that work out?
No, not good, because the Nuggets then won 3 games in a row. They basically did the like guy sitting up in his chair playing video games meme. They're like, okay, fine, now we'll start playing. And now they're up 3-2. And then the Thunder and the Mavericks are they or is the Mavericks just won to go up 3-2?
Yeah, so now the Mavericks can close it out in Dallas in game 6 potentially.
Wild. So you want to talk about a good second round. Even the Cavs Celtics one like had some competitive games, and the fact that we've had 3 at least game 6s, it's really good. Like this has been a very solid playoffs, not too many sweeps, not too many blowout kind of things, but this particular second round has been very, very fun.
At this point, I'll be very disappointed if we don't get at least 1 or 2 game 7s with 3 series.
And I would love it to be the Nuggets and the Mavericks series, please. I would love to win in 6 and let all of my Knicks, because even more injuries have happened somehow. We somehow have more people to get hurt. I would love for them to rest.
Yeah. I will say, and I would love to be wrong, I do kind of think that whoever wins the Knicks-Pacers series is going to get smoked by the Celtics. I hope 100%. That doesn't happen, but they're going to be exhausted and they're facing a better team. It's going to be tough.
Right. We're just so shorthanded. We're at the point where we had to rely on Alec Burks, which is not what you want to do.
I didn't even know he was on the team. I think I forgot.
We got him in the trade. He was really bad. We sat
got him back from Detroit, right? In the Bogdanovich trade? Yeah.
And he was really bad. And then it was just like a desperation, like, well, we keep losing these games to the Pacers and we just don't have enough players because OG Anunoby is hurt and Mitchell Robinson is hurt now. And so is Bojan Bogdanovich, in addition to all the people who are already hurt. And then he got in and he started playing well. And it's like, okay.
Wow.
And all the Knicks fans were all like submitting our apology forms of like, my bad, you know? Like, but we just need rest. But yeah, even if we get clobbered by the Celtics,
right.
If you had told me at the beginning of the year, hey, you're going to be the number 2 seed and lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, I would have done jumping jacks of joy. Like, it's just ridiculous.
I also have to say, and I don't want to encourage sports betting, or if you do it, make sure you are able to and you're betting a small amount. But when the Nuggets went down 2-0, I was like, they're not going to lie down. I am definitely going to put money on the Nuggets. I went to do it. Shocker, sports betting illegal in Florida. Might be the only thing that's illegal there.
Wow.
So when you go to like Open FanDuel or whatever, it just says like, sorry, you're in a location where you can't do this.
Oh, dang. You could have like called in me and I'd be your bookie.
I should have just, Chan, our buddy Chan would have definitely.
He would have thrown $5 at a thing. Yeah,
but it's funny. Shout out to our producer level patron, Lisa, who goes by world champion Denver Steam Nuggets. And our agreement at that time was that when the Nuggets won last year, we would continue calling them that every episode until they were no longer the world champions. And there was a brief moment where I was like, we're going to have to change that name pretty soon. But I don't think so. We shall see.
We shall see. So we've got some spiciness abound. There's other spiciness in the league going on where the Suns have already fired their head coach, Frank Vogel, after they got swept. And they are probably going to bring in Mike Budenholzer. This will be their 3rd coach in 3 years. They'll be paying at least 3 coaches contracts at the same time, even though only one is working for them. You have, rumblings of Kevin Durant being unhappy and stuff, but the Suns are kind of locked in. So that is what
Evergreen.
it is. Always, always, always. And then Darvin Ham, the coach of the Lakers, got fired. There's questions and rumblings of who the next Lakers coach will be. There's a weird swell, which I don't think is real, of JJ Redick becoming the new coach just because he co-hosts a podcast with LeBron. They're like, well, now JJ is going to be the coach, right? It's like, he's never coached at the professional level. He's not going to be ready for that, I don't think. So
you never know.
You never know. You never know. There is other spiciness abound even outside of the playoffs. We talk about some of it upcoming, like Doc Rivers has some spice going on. There is spice around, even not in the games, but the playoffs are still going on, and those are fun. And, I will say the one thing I got to give a shout out is Bradley Beal. Before the Suns got swept, they asked him about it, and he said, like, I've never, something to the effect of, he said, I've never been swept in my life, and I'll be damned if we get swept. And then they did get swept. And the first thing he said when he did the post-game press conference is he sat down and he went, well, I'll be damned. You have to respect it so much. That dude living life. He's making $50 million a year for the next 3 years. Good for you, Bradley. Good for you. Enjoy it. Now, on the other side of the basketball sphere, we've got the WNBA starting up. We had 2 rounds of games where I believe every team has now played. So we've gotten to see some of the new rookies. The Aces got to celebrate their championship with their ring ceremony and everything. There's been a lot of fun things announced just to build hype for the WNBA, which has been cool. Like Asia Wilson announced that she's getting a signature shoe. The WNBA did this big partnership with Skims, the underwear brand, who's already done stuff with the NBA. Now they did this big modeling shoot with a bunch of players, and they're there's been a lot of promotional off the court kind of buzz going on with the WNBA leading up to the season. That's fun. Obviously, Caitlin Clark mania is a thing.
And I feel like her first game was a little John Wall-esque, put up good offensive numbers, but also a ton of turnovers.
Yeah, 10 turnovers. Not ideal. But, figuring it out. A lot of the new...
Cameron Brink was very good in her first game.
Yeah, she showed some promise. There's been some interesting stuff, and it's just nice to see the metrics of there is excitement here. Jewel Lloyd released a new shoe. It sold out within hours. Caitlin Clark's WNBA debut, it was ESPN's most watched women's basketball game ever, which is really cool to see that that did better than the March Madness games. So there's a lot of good things going on. There's just all this fun stuff happening.
Flying by private planes is finally seemingly going to happen.
Yeah, so it's just really nice to see that now that the season is actually here, we are getting into things like actually proving like, no, people are excited. Because I think it's something people talk about this with the NBA. People are like, oh, people are more excited in the off season than they are about the real season. People care more about the drama and the trades and the moves and the spice as opposed to the actual games. And obviously our podcast is kind of like about that, but it's been good to see that the hype for the WNBA seems to be continuing, and it's not just like a thing that's like March Madness bleed over and once the season starts we don't care anymore. It seems like it's genuinely there, which is really cool.
And last but certainly not least, we do finally have a name for the Bay Area expansion team.
Yes, the Golden State Valkyries, which is really cool.
Pretty fun.
The logo looks awesome. I think it's a fun team name. Like, I can't think, is there any basketball team with a like mythological name
other than like the Minnesota Vikings or something like that? I'm trying to think of something that would be like
even in any of sport, but like it's cool to have like that type of team name. The logo's cool. It's got like the Golden Gate Bridge and their colors. It's like this like deep pink, like this purplish pink. It's awesome.
Yeah, the most mythological basketball thing I suppose would be cryptocurrency.
I mean, you got that, and then I guess
even Gronk was like, "Me know that not real money." You saw that clip, right, from the Tom Brady roast.
So. Yeah, it's a cool logo. They also announced that I think the 2026 expansion will have the Toronto team, which I don't think has been named yet, but Toronto will be a new WNBA city.
The Lady Raptors.
God, did you see that stupid bullshit? Ethan Sherwood Strauss and Bill Simmons, like Ethan Strauss said, like, why are you making us learn the team names? Give us, and I get that like in Europe, you'll just have like Paris Saint-Germain and there will be a men's team and a women's team and a handball team. And they do this with like Real Madrid as like a men's team and a women's team and a basketball team. But like, dude, there's 12 teams. Like, if you can remember the fact that Jericho Sims is the third string center on the New York Knicks, like you can learn 12 team names that have been around, some of them since 1997. Like, it's really not hard. We're not going to call them the fucking Lady Pacers. They're the Indiana Fever. It is not hard. It's fun learning team names. Let these teams have their own identities. Even like, I think it's some team names are like similar, like the Suns and the Mercury. And they have similar colors. But then other times, like, it's just different. You just have the Dallas Wings. Like, just learn it. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, we're going to add 2 NBA teams who are going to be like, oh, I can't remember the Seattle Sonics and the Las Vegas LeBron Jameses. Like, I got to learn new team names. Like, shut
the Vegas
up.
Brownies.
It's so, God, like, it was so stupid. So stupid. Yeah. Like, this team name rips. I hope that whatever the Toronto team is cool. But just like, get off. Stop being so fucking lazy. So stupid.
Yeah, I'm sorry to break it to you, but more people know WNBA names than your name, Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan.
It didn't seem like Bill Simmons really agreed with him, though. Didn't it seem like, because people were like throwing Bill Simmons under the bus, and I didn't get the impression that he was like, yes, that is a good idea. Like, he just kind of didn't say anything.
What I could hear as a podcaster who's been in the situation, it's one of those things, like, it sounded like I'll let you say this. I don't disagree with it enough to like talk about this and have an argument. Let's just let this go. Because Bill, I think you're right, was incorrectly trashed for like saying he agreed with it. I think he just has a more recognizable name. Now, Bill Simmons does have...
He just didn't verbally disagree with it.
Right. He said like, yeah, which I think was, I see what you're saying, as opposed to like, yeah, they should do it. That being said, Bill Simmons has some terrible old WNBA takes that he should be roasted for. And that's what I saw more on Twitter, was people like his old like ESPN Page 6 or whatever the hell thing, where he was like, well, Sue Bird's cute, so let's see her in cocktail dresses and stuff, and then I'll watch it. Like, he had this whole thing where it's like, until the women are hot, no one's watching the league, which is just like an awful, atrocious take. So I don't know. Anyway, all that's going on. I'm excited, though, that the WNBA is here. It's going to be a fun season. There's some new teams here. There's some new players here, a really fun rookie class. And it just seems like, both from the basketball perspective and the other stuff perspective, there's a lot of momentum into the season. And I'm really excited to see how it unfolds. And I'm also excited. There's a couple of horse listeners who have joined me and my buddy Ricky in our Bad on Purpose Fantasy Basketball League. My buddy Ricky started this league years and years ago for the MenBA, where you get points for like turnovers and fouls and missed shots and stuff like that. This is our first year doing it with the WNBA. So we had our draft, and that's fun. And it's been interesting to try to understand which WNBA players are getting minutes but not making the most of them,
Right.
which is how the league works. So I feel like my brain will be expanding of knowing the more disappointing WNBA players.
Yeah.
But yeah, at some point we'll have Jordan Liggins on, our official correspondent, to talk about more WNBA stuff, maybe when the playoffs are over and we can do a full court press about the season, and there'll be some games under the belt, which will be fun. But yeah, I think that can conclude full court press, and we can get into our interview with Madeline Hill about all of the drama of the NBA season past and present. Yes, as promised, we are here to close out this episode with a very special interview. Someone who is the creator of Impersonal Foul, which is a wonderful weekly newsletter, self-described as if Bravo and ESPN had a baby, which if that pitch doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. We are here with Madeline Hill. Madeline, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing very well.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can really appreciate how perfectly in our wheelhouse for the intention of this show your work is. The whole point of Horse is like, it's about basketball, but is it really? It's more about drama.
It's interpretation.
It's a perfect fit. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I would
honored.
love to. We are excited to have you. I am happy to know that your newsletter exists. I've recently subscribed. I love it. And I especially appreciate it as someone whose mom is like OG Bravo. Like, I remember we were there when like Bravo, the channel, like began.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
2006, like when all it was Top Chef, Project Runway, and other episodes of Top Chef and Project Runway. So
That was the best
been
time of
early.
Bravo, in my opinion.
God.
Michael, this is so not related to basketball, but my favorite claim to fame, I was interning one summer in New York, and I somehow weaseled my way into being like, not an extra on an episode of Project Runway, but like part of the challenge. They were trying to like buy something off of someone on the street in Union Square, and they bought my H&M shirt. So if someone can find that episode clip, it was
We'll have to see.
it was a highlight. It was a highlight of the mid 2000s.
You just like happened to be there? It wasn't like
I just happened to be there, and I'm on the phone with my mom,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I think they're filming an episode of Project Runway, and I was a fan, and I was just on the phone, and then a producer came up to me and was like, can we buy your shirt off of you, and we'll give you a t-shirt in exchange, just to like obviously be wearing something
Yeah.
in public. And so they bought my H&M shirt for like $1. It was on one of the early All-Star seasons, and I believe if anyone remembers
okay.
Project Runway, it was Cara Jenks. She was like
Okay.
an early OG Project Runway
That's-
runner-up.
That is incredible. I've said it multiple times on multiple of my podcasts that season 2 of Project Runway is up there with like greatest seasons of television, like not even reality show.
Yes, that is.
Yeah,
I would
season
agree.
2 it's just such a compelling season. You don't need to know anything about fashion. You don't need to know anything about why Tim Gunn is a perfect human, but it's just a perfect season of television.
Perfect.
So much drama.
No notes. No notes.
I'm pro gun control except for Tim. I do not want Tim to be controlled.
No.
No.
Do
no.
not.
He can do whatever he wants. He can do whatever
Yeah.
he wants.
Love it, love it. Well, let's bring in some basketball into the Bravo-ness, but I guess just before we truly get into things, and for context for anyone listening, we're recording this on May 16th, so playoffs are in full swing. Eastern Conference Finals is looking like it's got one portion of it set up because the Celtics have gone through, but Knicks and Pacers are still going on. The West has good series. But before we even talk about playoff stuff, Madeline, how did the approach to ESPN and Bravo come to be? What did one come first? Were you more on the Bravo side and then basketball became more of a love? Was it both at the same time? What kind of formulated this newsletter that you run?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would take it back to even when I was a kid, and I feel like it was a perfect blend of my parents got divorced. I would spend every other weekend, at my dad's house, who was a big sports fan, and I would watch SportsCenter, like the 6 a.m. broadcast and the 7 a.m. to get the top 10 plays at the end of the 6 a.m. If anyone listening is familiar with that setup.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone listening is over 30.
Yes, don't age me. And so I would watch so much SportsCenter, but then when I would go to my mom's house, all I would do is consume Oprah, MTV, also those early days of Bravo, Laguna Beach, you name it. I watched it. So I was always a pop culture kid, and inherently was also a sports kid. I played sports my whole life. But obviously, as I got older, I think the thing I realized was that there wasn't really a space for content that was targeted to what I was interested in, which is the Wikipedia personal life sections of athletes. That's like my niche. And, there's TMZ Sports, obviously. And then there's like a Woj tweet, which we can get into that there's probably actually a lot of similarities between those subsets of gossip, because I think that they both are gossip in a lot of ways. But there wasn't really anyone talking about, I think, the drama and the relationship changes, people's sponsorship deal changes off the court in a way that resonated with me. And so then during the pandemic, when everyone was bored at home, I started the newsletter just kind of for fun as a side project to kill the many hours of time we had at home, and wanted to get away from washing vegetables and everyone remembers that time.
And sourdough starters.
So I actually never participated. I feel like...
Same.
I know. I never made a sourdough, and I never did a puzzle. And I wear that as a point of pride.
Okay, let me tell you actually a sad thing about, we had a puzzle that sat on our living room coffee table for, months, that never was finished. And then eventually my husband and I just looked at each other. I was like, we have to put this away. We're never going to finish this. We're never going to finish
If we haven't done it now, it just won't happen.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
It always happens with puzzles. There's a time you're either going to finish it or you're not.
Exactly.
And it's always so hard to throw in the towel.
Exactly.
It's so
we
hard.
threw it in. And then I started this newsletter, and I just started it for fun. And then, over time, I started gaining a little bit more traction, and I was getting a lot of emails back from readers who were like, this content really resonates. And so about a year and a half ago is when I started taking it more seriously. Because clearly people were into this content. And then Taylor Swift started dating a football player, and here we are. So
yeah,
the rest is history.
Incredible. It's incredible.
Well,
and I think what
go ahead.
works particularly well about basketball is it's something I've realized recently. It's like, I don't know if other sports do this as much. I feel like basketball more than others. It's this weird setup where like people are encouraged to talk smack about their coworkers, like interviewers and reporters, and sometimes on social media, like it's a constant thing where it's just like the way you talk to the people who work for your organization is like weird, petty stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Suns got eliminated from the playoffs, and immediately it's like, here's all the things Kevin Durant dislikes about the organization. It's like, so you've just like had this ready to go? Like it's such a messy sport.
Yeah. And I think the thing that always gets me, that I find hilarious, is that it's all just workplace gossip to me, and that we take it seriously and treat it as this is like breaking sports news, when at the end of the day, it's just workplace gossip. And I just love how seriously it's taken. Like to your point, like when I see like one of those sports, I call it like the sports industry complex graphics that are like, a sports graphic. It's like a look, and it's with those quotes from Kevin Durant or whatever, it's talking smack about the Suns. And I'm like, they're treating this like it's a Pulitzer Prize winning like quote. It's just workplace gossip to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then players will get fined thousands of dollars if they don't contribute to the gossip. It's like, well, you didn't want to talk about how grumpy you were after losing a game in front of, tens of thousands of people in person and millions watching.
Right.
You have to pay us $25,000 because you didn't say something mean about Rudy Gobert.
Oh, yeah. But then there's like James Harden, who goes to China and just starts like talking smack in front of a bunch of kids. And you're like, what is happening? Like,
you've gone too far. Now we have to find you more money.
Yes, exactly. That's too far. That's too much content. That's too much content and PR for the league.
It's fascinating to me, just the way the reporting goes. And to get to your earlier point, you have the Woj and the Shams of the world where it's like strategic gossip, like organizational gossip where, Joel Embiid is getting in trouble for doing too many flagrant fouls. Woj, now you can say that he has Bell's palsy, but you couldn't say it before. But now us, the 76ers, are mad that people are going to be upset at Joel Embiid. Throw out the sympathy piece, please. And if you do this, Woj, we'll tell you about trade stuff later. Like the Woj transactional reporting is the most bizarre thing to me.
It's so fascinating. I have so many questions about how he gets his tips, all of these breaking news tweets. I'm like, does he have a ghostwriter for his tweets? Like, I have so many questions because that man is pumping out more tweets than anyone I know on Twitter.
Yeah. And you talk about the graphics. He has the graphics too. And he always does find a way. He always seems to find a photo where the person looks the most upset. Like every time. I know there are thousands of photos of these players all the time, hundreds per game. And it's always like, can we get the one that makes Miles Turner look the most grumpy?
Right.
Or can we get the one where Chris Middleton looks the most exhausted when we say breaking news?
They have to have folders prepped. Like there's no way that by like emotion, you know?
I really want to live in a world where there's one prolific dude who's both writing Drake's songs and composing Woj's tweets.
That would,
and then he gets the two mixed up. Yeah,
right.
You know,
right.
They're like, why is Drake rapping about CEO of Clutch Sports, Rich Paul?
Oh, I mean, honestly, that is my dream. That is my dream. Like, get him involved in the beef.
The thing that's so funny about it, and perfect in terms of your timing of starting the newsletter, is like ESPN has kind of turned into Bravo anyway. With all of their, I mean, so much of what they try to put out there is like hot takes and Stephen A. Smith yelling about stuff. And also, the NBA has turned into Rent the Runway. Like every time someone gets off a bus and walks to the locker room, it is kind of a version of that. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton has worn maybe the most ridiculous things. His outfits make Prince look like Steve Jobs. Like, I don't know. I don't even know. Have you seen what he's been wearing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like, though, Kyle Kuzma was like
the
king.
He started
the long
I feel
sweater.
like he started it. Like the long sweater, like my mom knows what that is, and she has no idea who Kyle Kuzma is, but like knows this man wore an oversized sweater. And I'm like, you know, they totally like turned it into a runway. And it's like they've turned everything else that happens off of the court into these kind of like gossip fodder things, which for me is great because I'm like, this is just more content I can write about. So I'm like, please keep it coming.
The thing that I want to know about the outfits that they wear to the game, they definitely don't wear them on the way out, right? Because SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, wore that like maple bar, all leather, everything outfit. And you're telling me he's going to be sweaty for 2 consecutive hours and then put that on?
No chance.
Impossible.
No way.
I like that. I want to know like the prep that goes into it. Like obviously they'll have stylists and stuff, but like clearly they have to be like, okay, this is what I'm going to wear on my way to the game. And then please pack comfortable sweatpants and stuff for the way home. Like it's just so funny the amount of thought that goes into playing basketball now.
Oh yeah. No, I mean like that. I'm like, I would kill to have an interview with whatever like water boy specialist-esque job is on the team that is in charge of the like post-game kits for the players to like put them in their lockers. You know, like, do they have like a rider? Like, that's like their snacks sitting there. I'm like, I want to know everything. That's like, you're asking the right questions. Someone needs to
How particular are the, instructions like, that comes back and it's like, I'm sorry, you used an iron and not a steamer? What are you doing?
Yeah. Right.
Like, you're going to ruin my whatever the heck I'm wearing. Like, it is beyond fascinating.
Same, yeah.
Are there any particular storylines this playoffs that you have found particularly juicy in terms of the drama? Is there anything going on right now that is particularly piquing your interests?
Okay, this one I actually just was talking to someone else about this. They asked what I thought was maybe the most underrated part of the playoffs. And I actually think the thing people are not talking about the most is Tristan Thompson. Because how is that man still, one, playing basketball and getting a couple minutes? Is he getting many points per game? No. However, the man from Keeping Up with the Kardashians fame is still playing basketball after Blake Griffin has retired. Like, it just blows my mind that this man, even though they got eliminated, like, he played in another playoff. Like, that to me, I'm like, no one is talking about the fact that Tristan Thompson of the Kardashian fame is still a professional basketball player and is playing.
And he was suspended for 25 games this season for doing performance-enhancing drugs.
Yes. It's like that to me. I'm like, that is
Tristan cheating? Never.
Never. Never. Who would have guessed? Yeah, I'm like, that to me, I'm like, where's the Woj behind the scenes? Like, Tristan Thompson, what are you doing, like, still playing basketball? I mean, like, listen, if you like your job, you like your job. And I guess why retire if you can play for 2 minutes a game or however much he's playing. But it's like, that to me has been the most fascinating thing. And then another story that has obviously piqued my interest is the whole Jonte Porter scandal. But within Michael Porter Jr., like, how is he playing basketball? I mean, that man has his own controversies, but like his family is going through it. And I'm like, how are you able to perform your job? Right.
Because he's got his own issues, Michael Porter, because he thinks like the world is flat and that COVID's a scam and they're putting chips. Yeah. Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Sorry to break it to
you. But then also, his one brother has the betting scandal. Then his other brother got arrested for like a DUI and then getting into a car wreck with someone. And then there was another brother, like a third, like they keep coming and they keep doing bad stuff and it's somehow worse.
Yes.
Like, wasn't there some sort of like violence thing with the third brother?
One of his brothers got a DUI. The other one got a DUI, but killed a woman, sadly, in the DUI accident. He is now in prison. And then his other brother got banned from the league. So to me, I'm like, I need to know what sort of therapy that man is doing to like get through the day at his job. I mean, like I said, tough. He's got his own scandals too, which I could talk about that for 2 hours, but those are the two stories that have been fascinating me of like, how is Michael Porter Jr. doing his job and how is Tristan Thompson still employed at his job?
The Tristan Thompson thing I find especially fascinating because you'll see this happen with some older players who aren't that good, but they're like great locker room presences. Like Udonis Haslem, he wasn't playing, but it was so worth having him on the roster just to like give people that expertise and talk to the rookies. And it's like having a player coach.
Or like Andre Drummond feels like he's going to play till he's 50. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Taj Gibson will always be on a Tibbs team on 10-day contracts until his knees fall off. Like you have these guys who had great careers and then are like great locker room presences and they stick around longer than they should, but it's so worth it. Tristan Thompson, as you've mentioned, is like more famous for cheating on Khloe Kardashian than anything.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, this is the guy. We need the guy who was on the Kardashians, was weirdly a broadcaster for 2 years, but then left broadcasting to join a LeBron playoff team, then took more time off. Now we need to get him on the roster. Like, how is he someone good to have in the Cavs locker room? I do not understand.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I feel like I wrote a newsletter about this, but it was about Doc Rivers that like, to me, maybe Tristan Thompson, like Doc Rivers, just has some dirt on a bunch of executives. And so they just like keep him around because they're like, it's better for us to keep him around than have him loose and he could say what he wants to the press or leak information. And that's the same way I feel about Doc Rivers, that he just has like all of this dirt and just keeps getting employed because he's just like too in the know now. And maybe Tristan Thompson is just like somehow this like lurking presence in the league and like knows too much. And it's better to just like keep him employed.
I'm glad you brought up Doc Rivers because I think he's always kind of like gossipy and stuff, but this season has been on another level. And even recently, now he is trash talking JJ Redick because JJ Redick said some mean things about him that were true. And now Doc is saying mean things about JJ Redick that are untrue. Like Doc is saying like, oh man, I brought him out of nothing and gave him the best years of his career. It's like he was doing fine before he was on your team and he did better after he left your team.
Right.
Like you were incorrect both times in one statement. Congratulations, Doc. But what's wild is that he's not some like retired coach or a retired player. It's not like when Shaq talks trash about people and is all insecure. Doc is currently employed by a team. Like he's under a multiple year contract and he's talking smack about current and past players. It's so strange.
It's so bizarre. And I feel like the NBA and maybe Premier League, I feel like those are the two major sports leagues that get away with the kind of trash talking at your job while you're at your job. Even honestly, I think more than the NFL. And MLB is like, I mean, that's a whole different, they're like, I don't know what's going on. They're like the Coles or the TJ Maxx. I don't know. Like, they're just kind of boring, except for the Ohtani scandal, obviously. But yeah, I feel like it's part of the culture. And he just must be like, I'm just going to say whatever I want to say and be a Stephen A. Smith-esque figure that's actively employed by the NBA because I can, and Adam Silver doesn't seem to mind. So he's like, I'm just going to get away with it until they fire me and I get a job as an analyst, and then I just talk even more smack.
I don't understand how there's still any goodwill left for a guy who coached a team to a championship 16 years ago. Like what? His track record is like provably bad most of the time.
Oh, yeah. And in my newsletter about him, I compared him to David Chang because to me, they're both two individuals in their respective fields who peaked 16 years ago or so and have just been riding on the coattails of that fame ever since.
Doc Rivers is the M. Night Shyamalan of coaches.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Yeah. And it's like they just continue to get jobs, I think probably because they're good in a room. And, if you're good in a room, it can get you far. So... Maybe
and David Chang, he was like a restaurant guy, right?
Yeah, he's a restaurant guy. And then he just recently like came under fire for this whole scandal around a product he was selling that was like a chili oil, but he tried to copyright the phrase chili crisp or something like that. And it was trying to send cease and desist letters to mom and pop like businesses who were also selling the same product. Yeah, he ended up apologizing, so I will give him that. But like, really,
Okay.
you're going after these small businesses for selling the same product, but it's a very common product. So yeah, but he's just been riding on the coattails, I feel like, of his early fame with Momofuku since, in the same way that Doc Rivers has been riding the coattails of Celtics fame, just like till the end of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, real quick to go back to the Jonte Porter thing. I don't know if you saw this. I don't think we talked about this on the pod, Mike, but I think it was Brandon Ingram after the Pelicans won their play-in games.
Oh, you mean when Larry Nance said no Jonte Porter?
Yes, Larry
and
Nance,
he verbified it? Oh,
Yes, he said no Jonte in a way to say, like, I'm not talking about betting, because he's like, I tell you what, I'd bet on the Pelicans if I were you. And then he was like, no Jonte.
Maybe that'll be added to the lexicon now as
should.
just part of the day-to-day speak around sports betting.
I mean, we talk about Drake rhymes. I surely, and I'm glad. I thank God for Kendrick Lamar. As someone, I've hated Drake for like no good reason ever since he was popular, and now it's like, ooh, great, thank you, Kendrick.
Yes.
You have good reasons to point out why he's bad and stuff. But I feel like Drake would make some sort of rhyme of like, I'm betting on myself, no Jonte. Like, that's such a Drake
100%.
rhyme, just waiting to happen.
100%. If not, it'll be like an AI fake leak of a Drake song, and it'll probably have that same line in it.
Yeah, it's yep, that's right there. Gosh, I think there's so many interesting things that go in to the gossipy portions of the NBA, but also, and again, I'm not as touched in with other leagues, but I feel like this is the NBA more than anything. But you'll have players themselves not even going through reporters or anything. Like, players themselves will just like tweet something or post something to an Instagram story. And it's a wild level of fame where like they will post just either a singular emoji or a singular image. And then everyone will know like, oh, and people immediately are like, oh, this is in response to this person saying that. Like, the amount of yarn on the wall putting together stuff, it's just people talk about the media savviness of the players to be able to give like really boring interviews, but I don't think enough people are talking about how they know like, oh well, if I tweet the eyeball emoji at this exact minute, they'll know I'm responding to people thinking Devin Booker, like the Devin Booker fake hair thing. It was the Devin Booker fake hair where there was this thing where it was like a toupee service where they were covering the guy's face and it looked kind of like Devin Booker. And then all he had to tweet was, y'all got me messed up. And then everyone was like, oh, okay, he's addressing the hair thing. And it's like, what?
Yeah. No, it's so impressive, the level. Like, I think of like the Genius lyrics, you'd go on to Genius and like look up the analysis or like the annotation. I'm like, someone needs to do that for these NBA players' tweets, because I feel like I'm pretty tapped into like what's happening off the court across most of the leagues for the most part. But there's sometimes I see things and I'm like, it's one emoji from Kevin Durant. And I'm like, what is this in reference to? And I have to like scroll through a bunch of replies to like get some context clues. And I'm like, Genius needs to make a platform just for NBA player tweets to analyze them and understand the context, because it is wild, like, that they clearly, from a league perspective, allow them to do it because it just brings more eyeballs and chatter around the league, or else they would fine them more for like trash talking their opponents or their teammates or their coaches or their owners on social media. But it is wild, the level and the extent that it, like, they clearly just all seem to do it for the most part. Like, I mean, Kevin Durant, I feel like, is the most famous
it almost
offender.
feels like there should be a service like the new thing on Twitter where it's like a quote tweet and then it's like readers added context.
Oh,
like
Kevin
Durant
notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Community
Honestly,
guidelines.
they should do that. They should do that. Elon Musk, if you're listening, please add that feature to Twitter. I'll never call it X, but that would be great.
No.
Never, ever.
No.
But yeah, I think it would be useful. And what's funny is that I agree. I think the league does enjoy the drama, and I think they try to encourage it and spice it up. But what's confusing is that the referees don't want this. Like, I feel like this particular season, and it just seems to get worse and worse, like, they don't allow for taunting other players. They don't like trash talk things. I get it that the refs don't like when you're saying mean things to them, but like the amount of technical fouls that we can get just for staring at someone after a dunk, you would think that the league would want to step in and be like, yo, let Anthony Edwards talk his smack. Like, let him do it. We like that. And it's weird that that directive has not been brought, because what's more fun than the Sean Kemp dunk where he dunks on the guy and then points at him? Like, nothing is better than that.
Nothing is better.
I would love more.
That is cinema. No, I wish that they would just let them get away with it more, because I mean, they always talk about how they're like, oh, they're trying to increase viewership, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that is the way to do it. If you just allow more on the court drama to occur, like, it'll lead to more chatter and obviously more viewers who want to tune into games. Like if you're, not finding people every 5 seconds.
I attribute it to like dating all the way back to the Pistons Pacers brawl. I think that's when they started being like, well, if we cut down on like taunting and guys chirping at each other, maybe it'll prevent a future catastrophic incident. But I agree that it's like probably an overcorrection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is.
I know they're aren't they working on like a basketball version of Hard Knocks, which is the football like behind the scenes show, and it's like a bunch of stars and then also Domantas Sabonis. Are you excited
the Sabonis
for
disrespect?
He's fine, but like what's going to be exciting about him?
He's
like,
no Arvidas.
No, that got fascinating. And you know what? Maybe we'll learn he's really fascinating, but I just feel like they couldn't get a sixth guy to agree to it, and then anyway, are you, from a gossip perspective, Madeline, excited to see this show? Like, it is truly the most Bravo the NBA could be. Do you think this will provide a good amount of content for all of us, not even just you who looks at it with the keen eye?
I hope so. I would want nothing more than to provide the same level of gossip that The Last Dance did during the pandemic, because to me, that's the only other example of NBA off the court like content that has like generated so much chatter. I mean, obviously it was also during the pandemic, so I think people were stuck at home and bored. But I'm like, if it brings even just 1/10 of the amount of like gossip or off the court nonsense that can create some fodder online, like I'm all for it. It's interesting, those shows, like they have to be done the right way, because like, I don't know if you've watched the tennis version that Netflix did. Oh,
it was so bad. I'm a huge, I grew up playing tennis. Too. It's really bad. Yeah.
It's just like, they're clearly trying to make like Kyrgios, if you watch tennis, anyone listening, like make him this kind of like bad boy, good guy personality. But I'm like, he's kind of just an asshole. And I'm like,
no, he's
are they
punk,
trying to make him or Taylor Fritz like the face of tennis? Like it just, it does not hit the same way. And maybe it's because they like didn't let a lot of drama into the like conversations, or they like weren't allowed to ask certain questions, or to like make it a little bit more interesting. But I at least just hope with the NBA version of that type of show that they are a little bit more open and willing to like push things a little bit more, to at least get a little bit more honesty from the players. Then I feel like the tennis one just felt so like, I don't know, like I was watching like a corporate documentary put on by the WTA about tennis players.
It was also edited so poorly that it's really like the people who theoretically would be most interested in it are people who really know tennis. And there would be times where they would like show somebody going up for a serve from the ad side, and then when they show the second half of the serve, it's from the deuce side, and it's like, you didn't even edit the same. Like, what are you doing?
No.
Yeah, I was really sad because I also grew up playing tennis. That's where Adam and I met. And I was very disappointed because when the Formula One thing was going on, people were like, oh, I'm really into Formula One now. I was telling everyone, like, why don't you just watch tennis? Like, and then when pickleball was getting popular, I was like, why don't you guys just play tennis? Like, why are we doing these tennis alternatives? Just like do tennis. And then they made the show and I was like, great. Like, I know there's lots of drama in tennis. This will be great. And then, it just felt like watered down. No. You have to be okay with being messy. Like, you have to, if you're doing a behind the scenes show, you have to be fully okay with it, because otherwise, like, it's just going to be so uncompelling. Just look at all of the interviews that these players do post game. Like, if it's that, no one's going to watch it. Right. But when people like say things that are genuinely spicy, that's what's fun. Yeah. So we have to leave that in the show and not on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, it just felt like too many publicists were allowed to make too many edits to the episodes. You know, that I'm like, maybe Kyrgios or did I say Taylor Fritz? I meant Tyler Fritz. Is that his name? Tyler? One of
Taylor.
Them. Taylor. Okay, I was right the first time. That like, it felt like their publicists intervened while they were filming the show. And we're like, can we cut that? Like, that's going to have to be cut from the episode.
Their publicist was standing on the side of the set like, quiet please. Quiet please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just like, I just felt like that there was too many publicists in the kitchen sending emails at 1 a.m, cutting like 10-second clips from that show, because like they had to have said something juicy that, you know.
Sure.
But
I will say maybe the most direct comp of like an NBA related Bravo show is Ball in the Family. Like, I don't really feel like it moved the needle. I think it was on Facebook or something like that.
Yes,
but the Ball Bros and their infamous dad LeVar had, I don't know how many episodes. They probably have more episodes than games played by Lonzo and LaMelo in the past 3 years. But that was like intended to be the same sort of format as like the Kardashians, I feel like.
Yeah, no, it definitely was, but it was also on a strange platform that like don't feel like got the eyeballs, but it probably could have if it had been on like E. I think there was one other sports show that E did with a family. I'm trying to remember. I think it was maybe a football family. I'd have to check. But it like did not hit because clearly I can't remember it. So it did not stick the same way. But like, yeah, maybe if they had done that show on a Bravo or on E, like it would have gained more popularity.
Yeah, you need the network know-how. You need Andy Cohen in the room to be like, look, here's how we bring the drama out.
Yes,
here's
100%.
how we make it happen.
If Andy's not there, the drama is not showing up.
It's true. It's true.
No, you need Andy in the room.
I have a very broad question for you. I'm interested to see what the answer is going to be. I'm going to give you a hypothetical. You get 1 hour, a lie detector machine, and you can choose any basketball personality. Let's say living. We'll say living. Who would you spend that hour with?
LeBron James.
Okay.
Because that man has the most tight-lipped PR, Rich Paul machine behind him. And I am just so curious, like, what is he really like off the court? I mean, he seems like a nice guy, like, you know, for everything
That's
I can
why I
observe.
don't trust him.
Exactly. I'm like, I just want him sitting down, and I will also say if I could split my hour, I would want 30 minutes with him and then 30 minutes with Savannah James. Because I want her perspective on what it's like being married to LeBron James and what it's like having to move teams. Like, I want to know where her influence came in, like when he went to LA, like, was she like, I can't be in Cleveland anymore. Like, I need to be in LA, you know?
I think that might be the case because I don't know if you saw the recent video. He was courtside at a Cavs playoff game and they gave him this big hype up where because, you know, every 5 years the Cavs try to get him back on the Cavaliers. And they did this big hype up thing and they showed him on the Jumbotron and he's looking pretty hype. Rich Paul is also there with Adele, which will never not boggle my mind. And then Savannah's there, and she does not look happy.
No.
Like, she doesn't look pleased. Like, her husband is getting a huge standing ovation type applause. And she's just like, don't do this. I don't want to move. Like, I think her brain is, I do not want to move back to Cleveland. I live in Los Angeles. Please do not make me move back to Cleveland, LeBron. Please.
Yeah, I think Savannah James did not look pleased sitting courtside. That big fur hat she was wearing... I feel like that was her energy, was like, I don't want to be here. Why am I in the state of Ohio? She's like, why am I in the state of Ohio again? I have a 90210 zip code now. Like, my kids go to fancy private school. I am not meant to be in Ohio. And I feel like all of her PR too recently, like, she's doing all these new business ventures. She's been a lot more publicly facing. And I feel like that's also playing into why she's probably was displeased to be back in Cleveland. So I'm like, I want to know what she thinks, like, about his career and just like having your spouse be, you know, arguably one of the best basketball players of all time. Like, what is that process like?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think it's very interesting. And I also think the post-playing career LeBron will be interesting because he wants to own a team and he wants to own the Vegas team is what all signs are pointing to. That is close enough to LA where they could stay in their base in LA and do it. But I think that's such a fascinating thing when you see certain players like have a very busy career. Because I'm a new dad, and I can't imagine. Like, I think the number one thing I've realized, even like minutes into it, was like some moms do this alone. Like, how is this possible? How are single mother like? Tremendous respect. So you think about these NBA players who are gone all the time.
Yeah,
and they'll have multiple kids, and these wives are doing so much work. And then they'll go on to do something else. Like JJ Redick has this huge playing career, and then his media career takes off. And it's like, when are you ever going to be home to help out? And I wonder that from the perspective of a basketball significant other, just if your husband or boyfriend or whatever, if he goes from playing straight into something else that's also immensely time consuming, like, is that really frustrating?
I mean, I'm sure it has to be. I mean, I think about the Tom Brady Giselle divorce. I know, reading a lot about it, like a lot of their divorce stemmed from the fact that he like wanted to go play again. And she was like, I've done this. I'm not doing this again. you need to like be with your family. And he was like, just kidding, I'm going to go play again. And sorry, we're moving to Tampa. Like, I don't know what to tell you, you know?
Yeah. No,
and so to me, it's like similar parallels with Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm a huge. I understand that you think it's boring, but I'm a huge baseball fan, and I'm a Cubs fan. And their backup catcher David Ross like got this amount of fame when they won the World Series. He immediately retired, was on Dancing with the Stars, got a job in broadcasting, had like 6 different jobs, and it literally was like, I'm going to retire to spend less time with my family. And he got a divorce like a year later, and it seemed the timing was like, yeah, you probably told everyone, hey, I'm going to retire and be around more, and then you were gone the whole year instead of half of it. And it was like, well, what are we doing?
Yeah, I must assume that there is some sort of group text among athletes, significant others to commiserate and like share tips and therapist references, because I cannot imagine what that must be like. It probably is so isolating. And so you're basically like living 2 separate lives, it seems like. I mean, if you're spouse was on the road that much of the year, and then if they're going to retire and then go become a on-air personality, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And I think that is not brought up enough when people talk about players having off years. Like Damian Lillard, for example, this year, he's going through a really messy divorce, and he finally opened up and admitted that in a recent interview in the playoffs, where it's just like, yeah, you know, I've had my struggles this year off the court, which have led into on the court. Like, yeah, I can't imagine just like having to perform at that level when you're in a good state of mental health. But if you're like actively going through a very messy divorce of someone who you've been married to for years, and then you also have to go play basketball on a new team in a new city, like that's so much stuff that I feel like there's so many times that fans forget that these people are human beings going through stuff, that even like when people go through like mid-season trades, like it's like, oh, we traded for this guy and he was doing really well, and now he's on our team, he's doing bad. It's like, yeah, because his family was in Detroit and now he's in New York and he doesn't get to see his wife and kids all the time. Like, yeah, maybe he's going to miss some 3-pointers.
Right. It's like you've uprooted his life. Like anytime you relocate for a job, there's going to be an adjustment period. But I think we forget as fans sometimes that like they are also just humans, to your point. And like a job relocation sucks for anyone, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough that Dame has to live in Milwaukee. There's only so much one man can take.
I'm here to defend Milwaukee, but I have the most rosy view of Milwaukee because the only times I've ever been to Milwaukee is when I'm doing tours for my other podcasts, and I've only done tours in the Midwest in the summer because I tell my tour guy, like, I'm going in the summer. So I've been to Milwaukee 3 times in like July, August, and July, and I'm like, Milwaukee's great. Why does anyone hate Milwaukee?
Milwaukee's fine. My mom's from Wisconsin, so I don't want to talk too much shit. But the best part about Milwaukee is that it's only a 90-mile drive to Chicago.
Is that their slogan on the license plate? In the
it should be,
Wisconsin? Close to Chicago.
Look, as someone from New Jersey, I get it. When I talk to people from not America and I say I'm from New Jersey, people will be like, oh, that's great because it's so close to New York. It's like, that's very true, but also how dare you?
Yeah. You're like, don't disrespect the state of New Jersey.
By saying something so factually accurate. Well, Madeline, this was delightful. Thank you so much for coming in, lending the gossipy expertise, breaking down all of these different things. If people want to read more of this from you, where can they find you?
They can go to impersonalfoul.com, subscribe to the weekly newsletter for more off-the-court nonsense. And I'm on Twitter at impersonal_foul. And then on Instagram, the impersonal foul, for even more fodder about nonsense that no one asked for. And here we are.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. We appreciate it. And we are looking forward to what hopefully will be a spicy end to the playoffs, into the WNBA season, into the NBA offseason. May the spice be abundant.
I can't wait.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Horse. Horse is hosted by Adam Mamawala and Mike Schubert. Our editor is Kensei Suramaki. The music is by Bettina Campamanes. The art is by Allison Wakeman. The website is by Kelly Schubert. The social media is by both of the Horse Boys.
Thank you to our producer-level patrons, Polly Burge, Salvatore Testa, Siobhan Ellsbury, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, How About Them World Champion Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed, Steph Curry needs some help this offseason.
Ooh, supportive bang.
Hi, Trish, Nicole Shepard, Chase Underulu, Haley Zink, Naked Rachel, Sydney, Crosby is a Vampire, Chelsea's Cousin, Ginger Spurs Boy, Balls to the Walls, and Artie Party. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Horse Hoops and on Twitter at Horse_Hoops because
Horse Hoops was the person in charge of Nickamule's visa application, and it was that classic thing where they thought they sent it and then they accidentally never put it in the outgoing mail slot. One of those things.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. Mm-hmm.
You can go to our website horsehoops.com for links to some of the fun stuff we talked about today.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to support the Horse Boys and get bonus content in exchange for doing so, you can go to patreon.com/horsehoops. We've got audio, we've got video. Adam and I broke down a recent thing in the playoffs. We'll be doing more. We're going to do our classic NBA Finals thing that we always do, where we do post-game discussions. Lots of good stuff. You get those ad-free episodes. You can get physical merchandise, all good stuff. And if you want some physical and digital merch, you can go to horsehoops.com/merch, get a Sup Nerds shirt, get old live shows, get ringtones, wallpapers, whatever. But we'll close out this episode as we always do by putting our hands in the middle and saying something on the count of 3. I feel like we've hit a bit of a theme, but there's multiple directions we can go.
Well, I do want to reveal, if it's all right with you,
sure.
that someone did speculate, I believe in the TNO Discord, about whether or not my kind of vague congratulations to a friend who just had a baby was in fact you. And it was. That was my little subtle nod. So now that it's out in the world that you do in fact have a child, let it be known that is what that was. And congratulations again to you and Kelly. So yes, there are a couple directions we could go with this, but in the interest of keeping the vibes good, you know how in basketball, like a team that wants to win now, they'll give up like a future first round pick to get someone who's going to help them win now. So let's do that here. So I'm going to say on the count of 3, we're going to say Knicks in 6, Bulls in 2029.
Ooh, I love it. Cool. Knicks in 6.
Are you all right with that trade?
I love it. Knicks in 6, Bulls in 2029 on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Knicks in 6, Bulls in 2029. Or never, perhaps. I don't know. Either way, go Knicks.
Go Knicks, please. It'll be very fun.